my lovelies. Hey, not everyone gets punched in the face at work by an NFL player, but this girl did. To be fair, it was really dark. The New Orleans Saint didn't know that I was a girl, and I had scared him so badly that he screamed several octaves higher than a castrati from the 16th century. Unfortunately for him, our security snatched him up and dragged him out through a hidden door. If he protested, I couldn't hear over all the other screams. I grabbed a paper towel and shoved it up my bloody nose, wiped out my mask, and crawled back under the swinging bridge to my favorite spot in the swamp room. This was every night of every weekend in October. I was lucky enough to have been sponsored and accepted to work at the infamous House of Shock in New Orleans, founded by Pantera and Friends. We were given as much crappy pizza and as much alcohol as we could drink for the favor of working in the scariest haunted attraction in the United States. We had specific cast that worked the lines and worked the parking lots. The lines waited, people waited hours back and forth in front of local metal stage bands that played and the Atone Pain Tribe. They were a body modification group, and they had various shock methods like hooking their members through the shoulders with giant meat hooks, and then they would swing them over the crowd, blood dripping, moaning the whole time. It wasn't a prop, it was real. If we didn't have someone vomit or piss themselves every night, we had failed our audience. The House of Shock holds some of my fondest memories, and the sound of chainsaws to this day makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. But how did I end up in this torrid love affair with the seedy city of New Orleans? That's the real story. So, what happened was, we were visiting friends in Birmingham, Alabama, and one of our dear friends had moved to New Orleans, and she invited us to come down for a long weekend. It's a free place to stay. I like New Orleans. So I packed up my toddler, and I told Sherry and my other friend, Carol Ann, that we were gonna go for 3 days. We were just going for a long weekend, that's it. So we did. While we were there, we decided we would go sightseeing. And they followed in the car behind me. I'm driving down St. Charles Avenue, and the thought occurred to me, you know, Anne Rice wrote the book, The Witching Hour, about that house in the Garden District. I should take a left. So I whipped into the streetcar lane, and on a hunch took a left and drove down a couple of blocks, pulled over, and figured I would tell the car behind me what we were doing. As I get out, I ask the people walking down the sidewalk, hey, do you know where that house is? And they're like, yep, it's right there. You stopped right in front of it, across the street. Well, that was fortuitous. So I tell Carol Ann, I said, hey, I think that house, and right about that time, this limo pulls up and stops in front of the house. There it is, that's the limo. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And as we're standing there, none other than the Gothic queen of New Orleans herself, Ms. Anne Rice, steps out of the limo onto the sidewalk. Evidently, it was her personal residence. I did not know this. So I'm looking at the limo and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna bother her. Yeah, I am. I'm gonna bother her. So I moseyed through the crowd with my toddler on my hip, because I thought she would get a kick out of knowing that I named my son Julian after a character in her book, Julian Mayfair from The Witching Hour. And so I walked up and I was like, excuse me, Ms. Rice, I don't mean to bother you, but I really wanted you to meet my son Julian, named for Julian Mayfair. Her face lit up with delight. She shook his plump little hand, and she explained that she was late for a meeting, but wanted to know if we would be interested in coming in to see her dolls. Why, yes. Yes, we would. She's like, how many people are with you? And I'm like, there's us. We picked up a few going in. As we're walking in, security went into panic mode. She's bringing people in the house? The mansion was magnificent. There's a massive staircase on the left. We walk in and there's this gorgeous parlor with these heavy velvet drapes. There's a coffin in the middle of the parlor, of course. She explained that that was so she could give a proper entrance when she did public appearances. Makes sense? She had a new book coming out, violin, and she said, you know, in fact, I'm doing a book signing next week. If you're gonna be here, you guys should come to that. Why, yes, we will. We will come to that. We will. We follow her down the hall like smitten little ninth graders, and we walk into this back room. It was actually a dining room. There's a big table. Her dolls, Lestat, Louis, and Claudia, that she had commissioned, prototypes, were on the dining room table. Everybody's sitting there like waiting for her. She introduces us to her team, and then she gets down and she looks at my son, eye level, and she goes, this is the room where your character was born. My little goth girl heart melted. She was such a gracious soul. Then she asked if we would be interested before we left in having a tour of the property. Why, yes. Yes, we would. Duh. And so security took us around all of the grounds, all the porches, took us out to the tree where Lasher would appear to Rowan in the books. We were elated to get such special access. Needless to say, we extended our stay. The following week, we went to the book signing. We got there early so we could get a good spot to watch her entrance. Yep, that's the book signing. As we get there and we're standing there waiting with all the other book nerds, security carries in the coffin from the parlor, somberly, and they bring it in and they set it out, and then they lift her out like she's a little living dead doll. She was dressed all in black and white lace. I mean, it was the 90s. She spent way too much time talking to us. She was genuinely happy that we came. She autographed all of our books. And as we're chatting, she said, do you like the violin? Not her book, but the music. And I was like, absolutely, it's my favorite instrument. She's like, oh, that's great. If you guys are still gonna be here, she said, I'm actually flying in Layla Josefowicz from California, and we're gonna have a private violin concert in the Garden District. She's gonna perform all of the pieces from my new book. Would you be interested in attending? Why, yes. Yes, I would. I didn't even look at my friends at this point, you know? Needless to say, we extended our stay again. At the violin concert held in this really swanky Garden District church, I fit in there. We didn't know anybody other than Anne and her crew. We had obviously become pretty friendly with them by this point. The violinist played with such passion that her neck had this big red bruise on the side at the end of it, which I thought was completely appropriate given the circumstances. My little Juju was on his best behavior and wore a little suit. He looked so cute. And Ms. Rice stopped for pictures with us and to chat with us before we left. She happened to mention that she was getting ready for the Midnight Ball. What's that? That was her annual Halloween party that she had. Oh, you don't say. She's like, you know, if you guys are still gonna be here, I can get you tickets. If you would like to come, why yes, we absolutely would. I'm not going to New Orleans and be invited to Anne Rice's Halloween party and not go. I can stay another week. We extended our stay. Now keep in mind, this whole time we had been exploring the city, we had been learning the history, taking the tours, eating crawfish. I mean, by this point, Carol Ann had her own damn apartment. I'm not even kidding, 3 weeks, she's like, I'm in. We figured that, this was a grand adventure, and we were in all the way, some of us more reluctantly than others, Sherry, but we were gonna see it to the end. We all got different period costumes and painted our skin white. I got Julie in a little Mozart costume. He had a little powdered wig and knickers. He was so cute. And we took off to Anne Rice's Halloween party. It was at Tipitina's Warehouse. Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails was there. A bunch of other bands played. Some guy with a blue mohawk carried around a little baby coffin he had picked up from a Metairie cemetery. I didn't ask. There was a little person dressed as a vampire who bit a friend of mine on the knee. I didn't ask then either. Miss Rice took the stage around 2 a.m. to close out the night. People took that costume contest way seriously, just so you know. And she announced the winners. We were absolutely flabbergasted when Julian won first place in a Halloween costume. Yes, he was front page of the Times-Picayune entertainment section that Sunday. We did not extend our stay. We finally went home. However, we were back next October in time. We finally moved to New Orleans. And we attended her Halloween party every year for I don't know how many years, many, many years. I also volunteered at the House of Shock for several years after that. We moved back to Virginia around the time that Hurricane Katrina hit, and the House of Shock closed in 2017. Miss Rice passed in 2021. The Vampire Chronicles and The Witching Hour are both series on AMC now, on whatever channel that is. And you can still go to her Halloween party. It's now a VIP vampire weekend. If you can get tickets, good luck. I have stayed in Virginia and tried to settle down as much as I could. But if you ask me if I am interested in attending a spooky haunted house, or if I would like to get into any wicked Halloween mischief, I will always answer, yes. Yes, I would.